Groton, hello tonight. Another wonderful, beautiful night in downtown Groton. Welcome. Landslide. That's what happened on November 7th. Groton surely got shooken up on November 7th. Look at that. Look at it on your screen there. That was unbelievable, and I hope this show had something to do with it. I think it did. So, thanks for tuning in. And we're going to have an hour show tonight. It's live. I'm going to open the phone tonight. I'm going to give you the number right now, but it's going to show up on your screen. It's 860-445-7499. Don't call it yet. I'll tell you when to call. And we're going to have some rules on that. I want to go through them right now. If I get any horrible calls, you're going to be hung up on. So please, stay civil. If you want to say something that's not nice, then start your own show. Okay, the next show will be November 6th, the last one before the election, and this is our first post-election show. It'll be live at 6:30 to 7:30, 1 hour show. They're probably going to be 1 hour from here on out, about every 3 weeks. So I want to, and this is going to be repeated. Let's go through that. Thursdays at 6:30, Tuesdays at 7, and Saturday at 9 o'clock at night. And it's also going to be on YouTube probably tomorrow. So just go to shakeupgroton.com or do a search on YouTube. And we're doing real well. Keep tuning in. We're one of the highest hit shows on SEC TV. So please keep it up. I want you to call me, email me at shakeupgroton.com if you have any questions. We don't have to show all the election stuff anymore, so that's over with. So I'm going to start by reading you. I went before the council the Wednesday after the big defeat, and I got my 5 minutes, and I want to start by reading. We have a guest tonight. I'm going to keep it a surprise, and I want to read this to you to get off to a start. And this was to the outgoing council. Truth seeks and finds the light of day. That's a quote. You lost not because the Democrats were so good. You lost because you failed to get down from your high horses and listen to the heartbeat of Groton. It's been getting weaker and weaker for a long time, and you ignored it. The diseases we have been plagued with was a town manager who stayed far too long and cared more about getting to retirement than about the physical health of our town. The theft from our citizens from the corporate deadbeats, Balfour Beatty, Oddfellows, Home, and Sun City, and the shameful no-ain't public school gardens, which were all used as pawns at our citizens' expense by Senator Summers, as she has also used this town council to fulfill her own political ambitions. So we're going to talk more about one of those issues that came up since I read this, when she was running for lieutenant governor and state senator. At the same time, you have no problem raising our taxes 13% in the 2 years you were in, and which we'll see if you give us back 7.8%. I know the answer to that as of tonight. After the state's budget provided little harm to Groton. We have lost over 50 businesses in Groton. We're going to show you some of those. And 8,000 citizens, and you have had no sense of urgency to these serious problems. You think the way Mr. Kelly's statue faces is more important than getting jobs and places to shop and things to do so that we can convince the many coming to Groton to make it a place to live for jobs at Electric Boat. You refuse to go to a bid for our town attorney, if not only to keep them honest. Our town attorneys wrote the most pathetic option agreement for the William Silly School property that I have ever seen in my professional career. They also gave an opinion about Balfour Beatty, that's the town attorneys, paying their fair share of taxes that resulting nothing for us but a big fat bill from them, while 5 other towns in Rhode Island and Maine did not pay thousands in town attorney fees and instead are now collecting thousands from Balfour Beatty. You completely ignored the William Skilly School neighborhood that simply asked you to prohibit cars from going through their quiet neighborhood, while you had no problem protecting the 23 gardeners in Noank while hurting 40,000 others. And they also have that boat to nowhere that's costing you all money too. Mr. Mayor Flax, you have told me many times I should feel privileged to receive a phone call from you. Well, Mr. Mayor, you should feel privileged to serve as our mayor. Tell me who is the winner in any of this, not the citizens of Groton, which is why you lost so devastatingly. You failed to listen to truths. Some of you obviously don't even understand them. And yesterday the truths found the light of day. Remember, this was said the day after the election. I am going to warn the Democrats. You suffered just as devastating a defeat 2 years ago as the Republicans have. Just now. Your previous council was not much better than this council in tackling the tough issues that I just addressed. I hope and pray that some of you parties finally gets it, as obviously Harry Watson does not with his comment, quote, I don't know what the voters are trying to tell us, unquote. It is simple. The people want a town council who listens to them, who cares about their future and their money, who pays attention to them and finds or minimally works on solutions to the big problems and does not use their money to help you or your colleagues in Hartford to win future elections. I predict that the Democratic Party who just won does not begin by choosing a new and capable person as our mayor, that they may suffer the same defeat yet again and waste another 2 years. The onus is on them to have a crack at it. Let us citizens watch how they do, and I hope we do not have the same election landslide 2 years from now, because it would mean little progress will have been made by them, as has occurred in the last 2 years with this council. Our town is what suffers the most when that happens. Okay, I'd like to introduce my guest tonight, Betsy Moukawsher, who, congratulations for the win you just had. This is your third term, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Just starting my third term. Well,
Yeah.
I'll start my third term in January.
Yeah,
Actually.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, and she tells me she won by over 3,000 votes, with 3,000 votes, which is...
3,626.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. So
But I was unopposed, you know that.
I know that.
But you didn't have to
but
vote
you
for me,
got it.
though. You
But they didn't have to vote for you,
That's right.
So,
That's right.
all right. I want to talk, because we didn't know this back when I read this on the 8th. And a very serious thing has come up since. And I have an article here that was in the day paper about it. And we are now, it's like winning the lottery and you're all ecstatic and you see your life has changed, and then all of a sudden you go and turn your number in and they tell you you're one number off. And that is what has happened to Groton. In our wonderful day paper, they should watch the show because they get their news more accurately. And there was an article in November 3rd by Erica Moser, a staff writer, not our usual reporter. And it's titled Local Lawmakers Tout Budget's Advantages. And it says here, Senator Heather Bond Summers feels that you're doing your job when people are like, oh my God, stop talking about Groton. Yeah, they're talking about Groton. Then it goes on to their efforts have paid off, having been named one of 3 new alliance districts, bringing the state's total to 33. Groton isn't losing education dollars over the last year, and it's getting an additional $1 million. A benefit to electric voters is that the budget extends funding for the Eastern Connecticut Man Initiative. I don't know why that's in that paragraph, because I don't think that has anything to do with the education budget, which did not change. We are getting the same 25-point-something million as we got last year, because we are now in this wonderful alliance district. And could you bring up the chart number, let's find it here, all the towns that are in the alliance, Frank, and that's chart number 4, please. Okay, this is the group that we are now wonderfully in with, and you see it's great towns like East Hartford, East Haven, Groton, West Haven, and these are towns, let me explain this to you, these are towns where students are underperforming. They are not meeting a certain level in their testing, which means that we're getting the same budget as last year. That's what people think. This is why this is winning the lottery and then finding out that you're a total loser. And our Senator Summers thinks that she had something to do with this, which is she absolutely did not have anything to do with it. This we won this because of our students performing so poorly. And so what this is going to do to us, let me explain. It's going to could affect our credit rating. I explained a few shows ago how Moody's and S&P comes in, and we're on the Moody's list to be degraded. So when we borrow money, we have to pay more for that money. And this could influence that because it means that we have lower income families here, and so we don't have much probability to increase our financial stability. And so this is not a good thing. Now, I know Betsy's got something to say on other ways that this influences.
Oh, certainly. We have a minimum budget requirement that's a statute that the legislature put in place that prevents towns from really stealing money from what's supposed to be education funds and putting it into other programs. Now, that's all based on what the ECS grant, the Education Cost Share grant, is. Mm-hmm. So in a town like Groton and a $78 million budget for education, if we didn't receive the $228 million that we normally expect, right, the town would be allowed to lower the minimum budget requirement. Right. Now with the alliance that we have now that we're under, we're not going to be able to lower it. So if the state doesn't fund the ECS, the Education Cost Share, as we normally expect, the town will have to make up the difference.
Right. So we're on, you taxpayers,
we're
on
holding the bag,
We're holding the bag no matter what. So this is not such a rosy picture as Senator Summers makes out and the Day paper made out. Now, another thing I want to talk about is, we want to have economic development in Groton. It's very, very, very important. So these people who invest in a town, they look at this. They look at our household incomes and such. And when they're down, they don't do the big projects. So this is going to hurt us on that front too. Let's bring up chart number 1 that shows the town of Groton mill rate. You see this every single show. You're going to see this chart because it shows, Mayor Flax, he said it's a ski slope up. That's what he said. And you notice in 2013, I always bring this out, look at how the mill rate dipped. And that is because Senator Summers was running for lieutenant governor, I believe, at that time. And what they did, the mill rate really should have gone up. But what they did was borrow from the fund balance. And the fund balance is what Moody's and S&P looks at because you're supposed to have so much in reserve. And we have now in reserve about approximately $9 million. I asked today about that. And we think to keep our rating, which is a AA, which is very, very good, which means we can borrow for very low costs. To keep that, we would like to have our fund balance at 15% of the whole grand list or budget. And that comes to about $15 million. So we are right now $6 million short. So, surprise, surprise, folks, I've been asking the 7.8% tax increase that we got in July, you're not getting it back. So, there's no hope. And they're going to take that money, plus the money they're getting from the state for this $1 million additional, they're going to add that to the general fund. So, we're going to be up, or to the fund balance, I'm sorry, and we're going to get up to 11 million. And we're going to hope and pray that Moody's, who's coming back on the 7th, because we're on that bad list, and they're going to review everything again to see if they're going to downgrade Groton or not. So, this is serious business, folks, real serious. And you can thank Heather Bond Summers for creating that scenario, because she essentially, it's smoke and mirrors. ladies and gentlemen. It's smoke and mirrors. And that chart of the mill rate shows it completely what happened there. And we're suffering now. We are suffering now from 2013 with a underfunded fund balance. And they can say what they want about it, that they're spending, that's all a lie. You can't cover up mill rate. It is what it is. Okay, so any more to say on the subject
On
of
that
the
particular?
alliance?
Well, it is serious, and we should demand our legislators to get us off that list as fast as possible.
Right,
Well, we
right.
have a blue ribbon school. Charles Barnum was awarded the national award. That means that they are exceedingly better than students at the same
So
grade
there must
level.
be other
So
schools that are worse
there
to
must
bring
be.
that down.
I really do. I'm worried that our legislators worked to get us on this list to get the extra money, and I don't think that that's a winning. It's not a good bargain.
It seems
it's not
that
a good
way,
bargain.
doesn't it? It seems
feels
that
it
way. It
feels
feels
that
that
way.
way.
It does, and I certainly have no basis to believe it.
Well, they
But-
must think we're awful stupid out here. That's all I can think of.
Well,
that they think this is a good thing.
It feels that way.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
And the idea that you take money from the fund balance to artificially lower the tax rate, which set us in the hole, and we've not recovered from that. We have
Right.
not recovered from that.
Right. Right.
So
right.
it's a direct result of what she's done, and in addition to other things you're going to talk about
Right.
tonight.
And I want to remind you all, I'm a Republican. Betsy here is a Democrat. So this shows that the two parties can get along, because Betsy and I think a lot alike. And Betsy has been around a long time, like me. Not quite as long as I have, but quite a long time. And I respect her highly. She knows this town inside and out. And there isn't much difference in our opinions on what's wrong.
Not
in
every
Groton.
time. No, that's right. With
It is.
Groton, right?
Right,
That's
right.
true.
So I want to spend the first part of this show on talking about the past council. I know I'm a believer you have to look back to look forward. And I want to explain a little bit, and Betsy, you pipe in here.
Well, you don't want to repeat the same mistakes.
That's right.
Right.
And I want to talk a little about to educate you on the history here. 4 years ago, let's go before that. For 25 years, before 4 years, so that's 29 years, the Republicans have been in power in Groton. They've dominated the council. 4 years ago, the Democrats won. That was quite something. And it was a 5-4, so it wasn't a plurality as it is now. And, we thought there would be big change. Well, it turns out the mayor who I gave the boob prize to, Rita Schmidt, she became the mayor. She was a Democrat, and she voted virtually 100% with the Republicans. And I'm going to tell you, I think every Republican who was in that council was on the next council. So essentially, we've had the same council, to be honest with you, for 4 years. And Rich Moravzik was on there, and he pretty much voted with that first council with the Republicans too. And I'm not talking as much party, because I don't feel that the Groton Republicans are anything like the national and state Republicans. I think they're far more liberal and big spenders than on the national or the state level. Matter of fact, the state Republicans have told me they don't understand why our Republicans are so liberal. I actually find the Democrats in Groton to be more conservative. So anyway, we've literally have had 4 years of that bunch. And I'm going to call that bunch. We all know the term rhinos, Republicans in name only. I haven't said that yet, but now it's after the election. I think I can say it. They are not Republicans, believe me. They're all about themselves getting reelected. So let me go through. I have first on that spiel I gave to the council, the town manager. Let's talk about that. He was here too long.
He started out in the planning department and became the planning director. well, before he became, he left the town for a few years and
Right.
worked for DeCesar Bentley and
No, he worked for a brokerage.
DeCesar Bentley.
Okay.
Okay. And then came back to the town and he became the planning director.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Before, yeah. Then
so-
he left. He left again.
Well, when he came back as a planning director and was brought in, well, LeBlanc left
Right.
abruptly, was not planned.
Right.
And so he was he was acted as interim town manager. And while the council was searching for a town manager, they decided to hire Mark. You know, and Mark served. You know, he's
13 years.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, it's an interesting analogy when you really view his tenure. You know, he really looked out for his employees and stood up for them, and that's probably
Yeah, but did he ever lay anybody off? If they were doing bad or good job?
not on his doing. I mean, you know, I can tell you.
Well, they retired, of course, but
And then those positions weren't filled,
Right.
so it looks like, you know, you have a smaller workforce, but it's not because of any heroics.
well,
let's
one
put it that
comes
way.
to mind, Michael Murphy. I don't know if Betsy knows
Yeah,
as much as
I know him in job and out of job. so,
Right, he
yeah.
was the planner that took over after Mark, and Michael Murphy, I would say, did the most economic damage to Groton. I brought developers in. Once they met with him, they did not want to do business with Groton.
Yeah. That's certainly well heard. I mean, the council heard numerous stories. People
Right.
would come under citizen petitions.
Right.
The town council 6 years ago revamped the membership for the historic district for the same reason, because of the lack of understanding of the needs for the
Right.
town.
Right.
And so I think they went a little overboard,
Right.
but that's my opinion.
But I went to Mark many times, said we have to get rid of this guy. He's hurting Groton, and he never did anything.
But to really look at it, it would be a strong manager that would direct the planning director on what to do, and that's where we lacked leadership
Right.
in Mark. You know, a nice guy,
Right.
looked out for people, but he really had a hard time telling someone stop it or no.
But he had a bit of a habit of giving nephews, nieces, sons, daughters jobs of
Really?
people
I
he
didn't know
wanted to
that. I didn't know that.
give favor to.
I didn't
Yes.
know that. Wow.
Another one was, I forgot her name. She was our head of the assessor's office. And she ended up getting, she left.
Dougherty?
Doherty.
Dougherty.
Yes, Doherty, yes. And we would have Pfizer here as headquarters from Manhattan. I don't want to, it'd take me an hour to explain it all. If she had been told to leave. Pfizer wanted to come here. She, just very briefly, she taxed them when they were building their new facility down there, way before they moved in. And I understand the CEO, I have friends who worked there, became very angry. He was considering moving their home office here, and he decided not to. So let's move on. Balfour Beatty, I'm going to lump them all together. Balfour Beatty, which is the former Navy Housing, Oddfellows Home, Sun City. Did Mark do one thing about any of this? No.
Yeah, he ignored them.
He ignored it, right. He completely, and we're talking millions. Balfour Beatty alone is probably over the same 13 years. It's interesting, just about the same 13 years. If they had been paying their costs, we probably, at a conservative level, I said that in my Balfour Beatty show, would have paid us $52 million. Okay, Oddfellows, it's another, and that's another Heather Bond Summers situation where they get protection of $25 million. Senator Summers wanted to jack it up to $35 million, where their asset, anything above that, they're taxed, but they built the new addition on, and so they're paying some taxes now, but nowhere's near their fair share. Sun City, they have solar collectors there. I understand now we're maybe going to go in and start assessing it. I understand. I talked to the assessor. But he didn't do anything. We went years with these things, and they're still, we got a mess on our hands. Whereas other towns, are taxing, and we have all that data. Any comments on any of that?
I find it puzzling because I've read some of the details that you gave to me that are, Mick O'Byrne, who I think it was the
Yes.
mayor at the time, certainly
Yes.
brought it up to
Yes. Asked many times to Mark,
right, and
what are we doing about
and he
this?
just
We have a letter from the
Yeah.
commanding officer at the base to that he wants to meet with us. Nothing ever came out any of it.
so it's puzzling to me,
Yeah.
but it seems that the council should have, the structure that we have in our town is the town council is, the buck stops there. They're responsible for directing the management, so the town manager, and then the town, right. And it hasn't been played that way.
Right.
It hasn't been played that way in years, since Dick Foote.
Right. Right.
So I think that, we went from having a very strong town manager with Ron LeBlanc. I think that set a precedent, and that the councils have just...
It's deteriorated.
Yeah,
since.
I believe so.
Well, drive downtown Groton. I've lived here all my life, and we're going to talk
But
about...
we do have a new town manager that I believe
Yeah.
is looking to the council for direction.
Right.
He has great ideas.
We're going to get to that.
So, okay.
Knowing public school gardens.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy. That's a biggie, right? Yeah.
It was a political ploy.
Heather Bond
Yeah.
Summers, again.
There's no question.
With Rita Schmidt, actually, I believe was the mayor at the time.
Yes, she was.
And they both were running for something, and they wanted the favor to... It seems there's a political game here. It's an old political method to steal from a big majority who's not paying attention to benefit a lower number who then votes for you. And it's Heather Bond Summers, and this is not the Heather Bond Summers show. It's just that she is the root of so much of this that you can't leave her.
She's only been there for a little while, and boy, what a mess.
But she was the mayor here, and she's
Right,
been on the council
right,
as a counselor,
right.
so she's got a long history in government in Groton. So, we're going over all the things of this past council. So they raised our taxes 13% in the last 2 years. I did not figure we could add it up for the last 4 years, but part of that, the 2013 is phony. They increased our taxes last July 7.8%. Let's bring up number 2, Frank. All right, this is putting my head together, just my head, because I've lived here a long time, and probably some of these would bring smiles to your face. Bastions, the Clamians, Style Shop, Youth Colony. We used to go there as kids all the time. Benny's we just lost. There used to be this incredible fruit stand on Long Hill Road, big. The Clam Bar, Bradley's, Zayres used to be here. This goes back. Galino's, remember Galino's? They were in this center here. Family-run business. Campbell's Hardware.
Orsini's.
Friendly's. Oh, Orsini's isn't even on the list. I couldn't, These were wholesome. Mike's Famous Harley Davidson. We just lost them.
Just a couple of years ago.
Charter Oak. Betsy can tell us all about that.
Well, I can't tell you everything, but I know that somebody dropped the ball and didn't grab that. I mean, Charter Oak started out as an electric boat credit union here in this
for the
town.
Employees.
Right. Homegrown.
Right.
How could we lose the headquarters? How?
Right.
How'd that happen?
We're not paying attention.
It's
Then,
completely-
again, Mark Ofinger, economic development. These economic development
Your planning
people,
department, they're supposed to be paying
let's talk
attention.
about that a little. Our planning department has 2 people, or the ED guys. They're not even from here. Mark hired them. They're from Rhode Island. They don't live here. They live an hour away. They don't eat, breathe, drink Groton. They're Rhode Islanders, and that's a problem. I know when I drive around, I see things because I'm here. I live here, and they're not here. And this has got to change. And I hope there's going to be some effort to improve that. We need it desperately. To me, another problem is the economic development head of it should not be under the planner. That position is so incredibly important. That position should be moved up and be at a department level. And I'm hoping the new town manager we're going to try to get John on the show. I asked him today, and I think he's seriously thinking about it. So we got to get him on, and he wanted to know what I said it'll be economic development. Because I told him today, the economic development's more important than your job. It's the most important job there is here. And we need an EDC guy or gal who has charisma, can talk to these wealthy investors, has traveled the world, can walk the talk the talk.
But lives in Groton.
But has to move here.
Yes.
No, they're not necessarily going to have been here. No, but they're going to have to. I don't mind if you live in a neighboring town, but you got to be in Connecticut.
I would think so. I really have a strong feeling about department heads.
That they should have to live in Groton.
I really,
well, that's a charter thing. I tried when
Yeah.
I was on the charter commission to get it changed, and it was like pulling teeth. I agree with you.
Well, you have to have skin in the game, and as they say, and that really,
Right.
if you're going to be raising a budget
Right.
and expecting taxpayers to pay for it,
Right.
it should be
Right.
coming out of your pocket too.
And this is really what we're talking about here is a hint to the new council. Because as I said at the end of my presentation here, if this new council screws up, as the Democrats did when they were 4 years ago, they were a disaster. They did nothing. As the Republicans did, it shows me that the voters are very sensitive. They will completely wipe you out if you don't do a good job. And I'm happy about that. Voters keep doing it. That's the only power you have is to vote them out. So if we don't start getting these, that's why I'm doing the show, so you're aware that you can watch this new council if they're doing these things. Okay, town attorney, a real sore subject with me. We don't go to bid. The Democrats or the Republicans have not done that. They don't go to bid. And, when you're in business, if you go and build a house, you're going to go talk to several builders. And even if you built a house before and you love the builder you had before, you're still going to go talk to keep them honest to know that you're looking around, right? I mean, that's how you do it.
Yeah, I really don't have a huge sense of this, except that we spend a lot in litigation, and our negotiated contracts with our union seems to be heavy in their favor. And I know that there's been new arbitration.
Heavy in the
union favors.
Union's favor.
And it's always been there's always been this fear of going to arbitration if you try to buck the union's
Right.
opinions.
I noticed
and
that.
I think unions are important, although I disagree having them in government jobs. I think that there's plenty of laws out there to protect workers, including government workers, but anyway, that's a whole nother show.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I have personal experience with these town attorneys, and they're very litigious. I don't know how to say the word, but they make money by creating litigation. So you have to have a town manager who puts a stop, and a council who says no, knows when to put the brakes on. Remember, they're working to their best interest. I have personal experience with them also regard to writing agreements. We're going to be entering, if we do economic development right, we're going to be entering a whole world of real estate law, which is a very specialized, and the Balfour Beatty issue. We need specialized lawyers, the experts on tax law related to real estate. And that is not our town attorneys. They can't even write an option agreement. So we need to, and not depend on them to find that law firm. We have to find it ourselves. And there are ways, and this is something this new council's really got to look closely at. Now, the William Silly School neighborhood came in, they did a petition. They came in and said to this council, we don't want all these, if this property gets developed, we don't want all this traffic going through our neighborhood, speeding around to get to going to I-95. They were completely ignored by this council, completely, and it's shameful. But this council had no trouble protecting the 23 gardeners of Noank. We went through that. Noank resident sent a letter in, and at the expense of 40,000 people. Here we go. And that's Heather Bond Summers. She separated, small group, made them very happy because they want to have a view at the expense of all the rest of the population of Groton. So, let's talk about the new council. The new council, I'm very worried. Dear Rita Schmidt got reelected. Disappointed me a lot. And she was a horrible mayor before, and I'm worried. I don't think they're going to put her in again. But again, she went totally against her own party 4 years ago. And if they don't get it right, they got to tackle these tough issues. You know, I gave the example of John Kelly, the statue. It's the fluff of talking about nonsense. Spending all your legislative time on not tackling the things that really, the first part where I said affects your pocket. What Harry Watson doesn't understand why the people voted him out. I mean, what the heck is wrong with this guy? You know, I mean, it's very clear why they got voted out. But if this council, the new one, they have an incredible opportunity here, doesn't get down to business rather quick. You know, they only have 2 years. It's not very long. And I heard they're making Ms. Granatowski, I think I'm saying her name right, the new mayor. I don't know her. She's from the city.
On December 5th is when the new council
inauguration.
The new council comes in and they'll elect a mayor at that time.
Well, the mayor is really important. You know, we have a weak mayor, but the mayor puts subjects into the subcommittees. And if things don't get to the subcommittee, they never get heard. And that's a very frustrating thing. And I hope this council this is a pet peeve. Committee of the Whole meetings, all previous councils used to sit down with the people. And Committee of the Wholes are when you work among the people. You roll your sleeves up. And this bunch...
Yeah, they used it like a council meeting.
Right.
And it was confusing for the mayor. He didn't know one meeting from another. In other words, a council meeting, the clerk takes the role.
Right.
In the committee meeting, the mayor takes the role.
Oh,
so
really?
It took him a while
He
to get used to it.
never knew which meeting it was.
It took him a while to get used to it. But that's because they were treating them the same.
Right.
The council should have subgroups, just like you were saying.
Right.
And
oh, they didn't?
no, they worked only with the committee of the whole. They didn't have, except for the personnel.
That's the
and
first
rules.
council that's done that, right?
No, it's been this way for a while, and
Okay.
and it was really designed to maximize the time. So
Okay.
also, you know, if your committee's meeting
Right.
and the other committee's meeting at the same time, you don't have an opportunity to listen to
Right.
what they're doing. So
Right.
that was what was
Right.
this came out of that. And
Right.
you know, there's some good, there's some bad, but I think that a lot of things that go to the committee of the whole don't need to. You know,
Right. Right.
That's why you want subcommittees.
Right. And they also
Big things-
eliminated
big
one
things.
council meeting, the third,
Right, they
the
did.
second one,
Yes.
which we need, I think.
Well, it gives the community an opportunity to address the council. If
Right.
you only get once a month,
Right.
you know, so if they go to subcommittee, small
Right.
group one,
You're in
group two,
favor of that.
I am. I think it will make things go faster.
Right. And we need that. Okay, we're opening the phones. So
I did hear a phone ring.
yeah, I heard a phone ring too. So let's get those phone calls going. We're going to keep talking here. So what do you think, Betsy, is the largest challenge that this new council is up against? And let's get the phone calls going, folks.
They need a long-term goal plan to bring in revenue, and you have to start by pinpointing what your strengths are. So easy things that they can do would be to.
Hold on, we got a caller. Hello, wake up, shake up, Groton. Oh, geez, I do that. Hi, welcome. You're a resident of Groton. You don't have to give your name. Go ahead, caller. Hello.
Hello, yes. I just wanted to call in and say that I've watched every one of your episodes. I think you have a fabulous show.
Oh, thank you.
I think you're providing a tremendous service to the taxpayers.
Thank you.
I've learned more from you than I ever have from my town council. The things you've uncovered, like this Balfour Beatty, this Oddfellows, which is seems to be a ball of confusion, and I might suggest or ask,
Go
I don't know
ahead.
if it's possible, but I would love to see our state legislators, all three, on your show.
Well, yeah, and I want to tell you, caller, these three legislatures, we have two Democrats, Joe Dela Cruz and Conley,
Chris Conley.
as our reps, and Senator Summers as our senator, and they, all three of them, could submit legislation that takes away this benefit of odd fellows, and we wouldn't have litigation. Our costs would go away instantly, and I don't see why any towns in Connecticut would be against that. We would have no trouble getting that voted in. Nobody would go against it. And I'm absolutely perplexed. You know, and we should not be supporting these entities. Don't go to Oddfellows and support their restaurant. It's not very good anyway. So I don't, you know, we really should be protesting there. Don't go and rent from Balfour Beatty. They're stealing from the citizens of Groton. So go ahead, caller. I'm sorry, I just had to get that in.
No, and your depiction of that no-end garden, if a picture's worth 1,000 words, your photographs were worth more than War and Peace.
Yeah, well, and I was there. I took those pictures are unbelievable, aren't
It's your
they?
show. Let him talk.
Go ahead.
So I want to urge you, don't stop.
Okay.
I think that the taxpayers of this town need a resource like yours to keep our government honest. I think you act like a watchdog. You remind me of 60 Minutes on the national level.
Oh, thank you.
That uncovers important issues that otherwise we might not know about. And once we do know about them, they're concerning, but at least we have the opportunity to try and do something about them. And I hope that the new council listens to what you're saying and they don't repeat the mistakes of the past. So keep it up. I know I will be watching every episode.
Thank you, caller. I appreciate it. Wow, what a plug that was. Gives me, you know, it's a lot of work doing these shows. So I'm happy to hear. That's the first caller of this whole show to hear that there's such appreciation. So more callers, come on in.
What's the phone number?
The phone number is 860-445-7499. So call on in. Here's your chance to comment on where we need. That's the question. Where do we need to go here? What do we have to focus on? That's the discussion Betsy and I are involved with now. And again, economic development. I want to do several shows on economic. That's kind of my field, and we are so far behind. I'm going to be honest with you. I just had the opportunity to see. Caller. Go ahead, caller.
Hello.
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 Welcome.
Hello.
Yes, can you hear me? Hello.
Oh, go away
Yes, I can hear you.
Go away from your television.
Yeah, you got to go away from the television.
Oh.
You got to walk in another room. Or turn it down. You're getting feedback. Can you turn it down?
Hello. I just wanted to tell you
Go
that
ahead.
I'm very appreciative of everything you're doing. You're doing a great job, and I would never know what's happening in this town if it wasn't for your uncovering all these concerns. And again, I thank you. Keep the show going.
I appreciate
very,
it.
very
Is there any
interesting.
particular subject you want to hear more about in the future? Is it that you want me to focus on and that's confusing?
Oh,
Because a
she's
lot of
gone,
this
she's
is...
gone.
Whoops, we're off.
Yeah, she hung up.
Okay. Well, keep calling. But as I was saying, economic development is a very confusing and very tough field, and I don't feel right now we have full up capability, and I'm trying to talk to upper management about this, and we need to get real, leadership on staff. And I hope this new council recognizes that. Groton has immense opportunity. We are getting 10,000 jobs into Groton at EB. That's the beginning of it. If we get the missile boats, we're going to have to build new dry docks and we're getting new dry docks for the fast attacks too, and that's $1 billion worth of investment in Groton. And then if we get the missile boats, I was told by the Navy, I talked to them, we're going to that another $2 billion. So this place, when the rest of the world's doing horrible, Groton does very well. It's unfortunate. And so we have and I believe this is a window. And this is what I keep telling them. We have an urgent need here. And we need to, and I'm going to start explaining some of this. There's a show called the ICSC, International Conference of Shopping Centers. And they have a big show in Vegas in May. The big show in New York City, the biggest on the East Coast, is coming up in December. We are not prepared after much encouragement to this former council. They didn't get off their duff and do anything to get prepared. And then they have a smaller show in Boston. I think it changes, and one in Hartford. And we've had very little, and towns come to these trade shows, and that's where all your retailers come, your developers, brokers. That's kind of the big get together. And the Vegas one is the main one. And
it'd be valuable for our town manager to go and see
Yeah.
what is there and what's expected,
Right.
so he can come back and
Right.
and maybe even
Right.
some counselors to go just to see what it's all about,
Right.
and then direct the
And I
the
encourage our
economic
town
development.
manager that the economic development director, which I don't think they're called that, needs to be in the same building. They have to work very
Absolutely.
closely together. And,
Yeah.
they're way up on the hill in the annex, and there's no coordination. And I'm going to be honest with you. I have called John Reiner. I have here texts and messages over and over, and we'll get into this more in the future.
Yeah,
If
he works
doesn't
from
answer-
home a lot. I understand.
Well, you can't do that job from home. That job needs interaction with the public, with visitors, and you have to know Groton inside and out. And I don't believe he knows our town inside out. I believe we need somebody you need first of all, a planner and an economic development person are two different personalities. Go ahead, caller.
Hi, Gretchen. I live in Noank, and I just want to commend you.
Oh,
I
thank
watch
you.
your show, usually on YouTube, and I'm very
Great.
impressed.
Thank you. Wow.
And I'm
Boy.
especially impressed with how you covered the Noank community garden. That's
Okay.
a big concern of mine. So I just want to thank you.
Anything
and,
else
I'll
you'd like
watch-
me to cover in greater detail? Because these are all confusing subjects. Hello, caller? Oops, he's gone. Yeah, you
Yeah.
push it.
Yeah, she just.
Okay.
Thank you. That's nice.
Gee, wow.
It's nice that she.
We're getting-
It's a Noack person who realizes
Right.
the value of doing
Noack.
something else besides
A garden,
A garden.
right. Do you know that, in my estimates, if we had something like the Oddfellows housing, which is really nice, I mean, there's nothing
They're
awful
beautiful,
about
beautiful.
these things, that we could
So
probably...
that's age restricted, is what you're talking about?
Yes, 55 and older. So this whole issue of burning the schools, which costs us money, I've talked about that. That's about 8 acres up there. We could probably earn there in taxes about half of what we earn from Oddfellows for getting that amount of housing in. Oddfellows should be paying, if it was fully taxable, about $600,000 a year. So we probably could be getting about $300,000 from the farm property. That's a lot. And what are we keeping it open? I mean, it's a joke. You go there. I thought it was going to be all garden. When I went there, I was shocked. You saw the pictures. It's about, you know, a tenth of it is the garden, and the garden was absolutely empty. I mean, there weren't even pumpkins. This is the time of the year for pumpkins. And I guess the theory of it, maybe I don't understand. They're supposed to grow vegetables for people who they donate this to as food. And I didn't see much there that was food.
I don't know.
And then they planted these fruit trees, these apple trees that were deplorable. They were all, I grew up in a landscape family, and they weren't even planted right. They're going to die. So anyway, it's very frustrating. Any more callers? Come on, 860-445-7499. We don't have a heck of a lot of time left. So, Betsy, if you had a wish for this new council to get reelected, I want a council to get reelected, because 2 years to do these big economic development things isn't long enough.
Well, I think it's screaming right in your face, the Balfour Beatty deal, or no deal. We
Right.
should say the no deal.
Right.
That needs to be addressed,
Right.
and in a respectful way. It's not you're not asking for something that no other community that has the same housing units.
Right.
You're not asking for anything different.
Right.
But it's only fair to the taxpayers,
Right.
and I'm sure that the citizens that are renting there feel the same way.
I talked to a few of them, and they
I have
agree
too.
that they should pay. And they're shocked when they hear this.
Yeah, they had no idea.
No, they've had no idea. They cost us last year, 2016. We don't have the 17. They cost us $7.5 million.
That's just
$180 per every man, woman, and child in Groton pays. You take that out of your pocket and throw it in the toilet and flush it down, and it's equivalent to that. And there's no sign when you enter Groton that says you got to donate $180 every person. So if you're a family of 5, you're paying about $1,000 a year to subsidize a very wealthy company. That's a very large international construction company. Look up do a Google search on Balfour Beatty. They're a big international. They do big construction, and this is one division of theirs that does it. Now, let me explain. They bought because I looked it up. They had what do you call the tax when you sell something?
Conveyance.
Conveyance tax, and if you work it back, it comes to about $7 million. So they bought, and this is a confusing point. This is Balfour Beatty. There's people who think the old way that the Navy, it's still Navy. Navy is the landlord to Balfour Beatty, and they're the I can't see whatever somebody's showing me, and they are the tenant. So they have, Navy families that they rent to, and they pay the Navy they rent from. There's actually a lease agreement. So it's no different than a farmer out west who rents his land from the federal government for his cows or whatever, and then he sells the milk maybe to an army base.
Right.
Okay? It's the same situation. He pays taxes. He pays taxes on all his equipment, on everything. We have the same thing, but they're not getting a dime. And Solar City, too. They're another one. And all those solar panels you saw in there, it's millions worth. And I'm going to talk more about Balfour Beatty in another show. I'm trying to get somebody from economic development on to talk more in detail, because there's a lot more to talk about on the subject. So it's really great. We opened the phones. We didn't get one yet. I guess there's time to get one more in. Horrible call. We didn't get any. Maybe it's Betsy's pretty face, not mine. Maybe that's it. So anything else, Betsy, in close? I mean, you brought up Balfour Beatty. I would put very high on the list economic development.
But it's also cleaning up what we already have, too. And I'm not saying that you have to spend millions of dollars, but clean up the streets. There shouldn't be trash. There shouldn't be weeds growing in the medians. It really bothers me. It really bothers me, because it's and when you come in to
we
town
have drains, and there's stuff's growing feet up in the air out of the bottom of the drains, because they don't clean the dirt out.
And it does take people.
Growing.
It does take people, but it also could take organizations that we already have here. Say the Navy base. They are always the Chiefs group. They're always looking for projects. Organizing volunteers that are here now. There are people that can do that. Not just me, but other people. I would say that would really help people feel better about where we live. It's one of the most beautiful communities I've ever lived in, and I've lived all over the country too. And the advantages that we have with the inland water and the ocean water, it's paradise, really.
Well, we're halfway between New York and Boston.
Yes.
Midway, people don't know that is named Midway because that is the geographic middle. There's a marker there between New York and Boston. People don't know that. We're right in the middle. I think it's an ideal location. We have sites that have beautiful views, big property that's the town owns that has views of the river. So, and we're going to get more into that in future shows. So I want to thank Betsy, and I want to thank all the people who've been on the show, beginning with, it's been fantastic. We had the superintendent, Dr. Grenier. Then we had Mayor Flax on the second show. That was an interesting show. Then we had the two Democrats who ran, Conrad Heed and Rachel Franco on. And it's been really, fun. And I hope I'm getting better at this.
You get callers that
and we got 3 great callers, so that gives you energy to keep going. So,
well, I appreciate you inviting me.
Thank you, Betsy. And congratulations again.
Thank you.
You're a great town clerk.
Thank you.
When you go in, you get treated very nicely.
Warm welcome, right?
Yes, that's right. I know she's adamant about that.
Oh,
Very nice. Everybody's so nicely dressed too.
I insist.
I know you do. So, so please, and we're gonna. If we invite you again, would you come on?
If I'm available, sure.
Yeah, sure. Okay, and it's hoped that Betsy looks at some other things to run for. We can use her skills elsewhere too. I'm not asking the question.
Yeah, you know how to get me in trouble.
Right. So, okay, we'll see you on November 6th at 6:30. Have a nice Thanksgiving, and
November 6th, what?
November 6th.
You mean December.
I'm sorry, December 6th at 6:30. God, that's a lot to say, is the next show. And I don't know what's going to be yet, but I'm sure it's going to be revolved around economic development. And we'll see you all then. Thank you very much. Let me put my hat on. Thank you. Good night, everyone. Stay dry and warm. Okay, thank you.